Bye, Lewis. At the end of February, Dad lost his hearing, and him and I started to learn sign language. I found myself using it sometimes, and Daffy and I sometimes use it to communicate. So thank you all for being here. Nabil was born on March 12, 1959, to Manuel, Babby, and Friel. A beautiful, smart, confident, caring Friel. You're not here today, but thank you for being a second mother to me. And thank you, Aunt Nahla, for being a friend and her daughter at the time she needs it most. Thank you, Uncle Falah, for being there for us throughout. Your support has meant a lot. Manuel passed away at a young age, but he didn't die, as pieces of him are littered around this room and world. His parents, Habuba and Zaya, are well, and their presence fills this room as well, along with Friel's lineage. From Uncle Wadia to Jill to Paul to Jeff to the other Jeff to a lot of you here, your presence is felt. Gone for such a long time, Manuel is still brought up with respect, reverence, admiration, and love. He was loved by his siblings so much that they passed down his stories and feelings towards him through generations. As I become close with some of our relatives, I'm certain that he lives with us today in some capacity. As a family, the Babbies are strong, close-knit, loyal, brave, knuckle-headed, defiant, and do things in our own certain way, regardless of norms or expectations. Nabil had a similar path as Manuel, as he was gone in Florida for so long. But to my almost surprise, when he came back to Michigan, he was held in the same high regard as his father is. As his son, I'm humbled, proud, and touched to be a part of that. Late last year, my dad and I got to see pictures of his father, Manuel, for the first time. Thank you, Netta, for putting that together and allowing that special moment. And thank you, Jill and Uncle Wadia, for minding his grave all those years. Since Dad moved to Florida and his kids started to get married and have their own kids, I felt bad for him, that his whole life was spent at work and not taking any significant time off. He didn't have a desk job where he sat around and made cold calls. He had a physically demanding job, lifting and delivering boxes and making sales throughout South Florida. Over the past decade, Dad and I would often ask each other, "Hey, Matt, how's work?" "Oh, work is work." "Hey, Dad, how's work?" "Oh, work is work." But since his cancer diagnosis was received, he received an outpouring of texts and messages, along with multiple gifts from fellow employees. He was so proud, showing us his texts and explaining his job to us. His influence was felt at both locations he worked at in Florida. He trained, mentored, and led others. A couple quotations that come to mind are, Bill always said hello with a smile. Hello and goodbye with a smile. Bill was my Cintas Florida dad. It made me feel comfort that his twilight years were fulfilling and meaningful. Through this process, I've been able to get closer with some of my coworkers as well. So thank you, Dad, for setting that example. In our hard-headedness and defiance, Dad and I refused to lose the cancer. So on that note, I'd like to start with some thank yous to cancer. Thank you, cancer, for bringing Dad back to Michigan. Thank you, cancer, for bringing our family together. Thank you, cancer, for giving me time with my dad. Thank you, cancer, for the opportunity to say all these things to him already. Thank you, cancer, for showing me what real resiliency is. Thank you, cancer, for showing me what real strength is. Even though Dad lies in that casket, he is as strong as he ever was. As I look at you lie peacefully in that casket, you look so mad to be lying there, and I love you for it. Suffering is defined as the experience of pain, distress, or hardship. According to that definition, Dad suffered mightily for almost a year. For Dad and I, we define suffering as something somewhat close to that definition, but suffering cannot exist when there is still a continuous fight and hope is still present. Throughout the whole time up until his passing, Dad never quit and never lost hope. He fought valiantly in order to spend time with his family and go camping, drive to Alaska, take cruises with family. There were a few times I saw him suffer, which I want to mention today. The first time was when the doctor suggested that he get a PEG tube placed. And I'm sure if you know Nabil, he loves his food. And it took him a couple of weeks for him to decide, I need to get a PEG tube. I'm going to stop drinking these nasty Ensure drinks and these nasty drinks. Second time I saw him suffer was when the doctor said he wouldn't be able to eat again. This was in late last year. And a month and a half later, Dad defied those odds and was eating normally again. Another time I saw him suffer was at the restaurant when he was placed on hospice and he had a very strict diet. And we wouldn't let him get every single piece of crab meat he wanted or shrimp that he wanted or roast beef. We wouldn't let him get roast beef. I saw him suffer that day. And the last time I saw him suffer was when his dignity was taken away when he had to use the restroom, not in the restroom, but on a commode. And he wasn't having it. He said, Matt, I put on my shoes, I'm getting out of here. With that being said, we'd like to give you more detail into what Dad was actually fighting and how he refused to give in to cancer. On the evening of July 12th, I received a phone call from Mom from the hospital, and Dad was in the hospital, and he had barely eaten in months. Eventually, Sarah and I flew down, and we heard the words that nobody wants to hear: stage 4 esophageal cancer, spread to liver and lymph nodes, along with a diagnosis of pulmonary embolisms. Dad was defiant, but eventually agreed to move to Michigan temporarily to fight cancer alongside his family. Dad quickly moved to Michigan and within days began his first rounds of radiation, which led to bouts of extreme pain and a host of side effects. Immediately following radiation came 6 rounds of 72-hour chemotherapy sessions. During this time, he had surgery to put in a Mediport as well as a separate surgery for a PEG tube. We did have a scare where his PEG tube popped out and we had to visit the ER to have it replaced. During this time, we learned of such terms such as genetic mutations, immunotherapy, targeted drug therapy, endoscopy, and another longer, impossible word for me to say. After 6 rounds of chemo, and to Dad's dismay, his body could no longer tolerate the treatments. And as planned, we moved on to a targeted drug therapy. Around this time, we received the good news that the tumors in his esophagus, liver, and lymph nodes had shrunk considerably. As Dad continued his fight, he was gaining strength and getting better. We learned of 2 other terms that we were ecstatic to learn about: maintenance mode and remission being possible. Unfortunately, a couple of days later, Dad started showing signs of confusion, hearing loss, imbalance, and overall weakness. Unfortunately, during this time, we also learned of some other new terms: leptomeningeal disease, Omiya reservoir, lumbar puncture, spinal tap, cytology reports, possible stroke, complete loss of hearing, palliative care, altered mental state, delirium, and eventually hospice. Throughout this time, Dad kept an optimistic attitude and absolute determination to recover, from following strict diets to impressing nursing staffs in the inpatient rehab with his refusal to stop working, even when he was exhausting his own body. They called him impulsive, hardworking, and very motivated to become independent again. Here are some other diagnoses that he had throughout this time. DVT, blood clots, anemia, fissures, hemorrhoid, abscess, constipation, which he described as the worst pain he ever had, C. diff, AFib, critically low potassium, sepsis, thoracentesis 3 times, pleural effusions, blood transfusions, fractured hip, ribs, and we didn't find out into the ribs until about a month later. He had 5 endoscopy, he had gallstones removed, he had kidney stones in the stent placed. He suffered from insomnia. He had a 2-week nightmare at a nursing home. He had 2 inpatient rehab sessions. He had 1 traumatic night with an overzealous nurse. He was given a suction yonker machine and then blood fluid chemotherapy. Even following his discharge from the hospital into hospice, when traditional medicine gave up on him, he refused to lie down and quit. He started taking holistic medicine and followed the doctor's recommendations to a T. Dad taught me so much about grace and showing appreciation. One of my favorite moments in the hospital was when he was being transferred from one unit to the other, and he's completely out of it. There's 3 or 4 nurses surrounding him. And as we're going into the elevator, he loved the food at the hospital. And as we're going into the elevator, he notices one of the people that deliver food. Not a doctor, not a nurse, just every time she would come in, hey, Nabil, here's your food, thank you, ma'am. He made it a point to perk up and pop up and say, can I speak to you? And he thanked her for the great food that they have, and please give my compliments to the chefs. That's not verbatim, but that's pretty much what he said. And she said, oh yeah, I know you, you're on this floor, So that's just an example of the compassion and grace that he shows. I carry some of these traits with me, and he continues to live through me. In my opinion, the main thing that led to my dad's downfall was his refusal to be labeled as, in his words, an invalid, and his desire to get back on his feet and become independent again. He did not like being dependent on other people. Dad is defiant. Again, eating again with the doctor. The doctor told him, hey, Nabil, you're never going to be able to eat again. He did. One time I left for work. This was one of the first times I left him at home without me being there with him. And the second I leave the home, within 5 minutes, I check the camera, and there's Nabil standing up, leaning over a sink. When he wasn't supposed to be standing up because he could fall and hurt himself. Looking back on it, it fits you to a T, and I'm so proud of you for it. Unfortunately, you also thought it would be a good idea to lean over the bed and grab a pen on the ground. You fractured your hip and ribs. The ribs we didn't find out till later. And when you were in hospice, you hid your pain until it became too hard to bear, and you were no longer able to get out of bed. Just as Manuel and Friel lived through you and us, you live through us in very specific ways. Kristen, Dad lives through you with your attention to detail, your dedication to your kids. You're very similar to Dad. And thank you, Matt Caltherborn, if you can hear me, for being by your side. Lincoln, come on. Just like Grandpa, you're the oldest of your generation and the rest of your cousins. look up to you. I know this seems hard right now, but we are strong and we are brave. You're going to grow up, and I'm always going to see my father in you. Daphne, your personality is just like Grandpa's. You have the ability to talk to anybody about anything. Come up here. When Grandpa passed, it was on a Tuesday. And we said that, hey, Tuesday is a bad word. We don't want to say Tuesday anymore. Daphne?
I said that.
Right, you said that. What do we call Tuesday from now on?
Booze Day.
Booze Day. Your grandfather's humor shines bright within you, Daphne. Charlie, you're mischievous, and I love your rebellious spirit and your defiant behavior. Hone these skills as you get older and use them to your advantage, just like your grandpa did. Louis, when chaos was surrounding him, my dad showed more grace than I've ever seen. I see the same in Louis. Penelope, I can't wait to see which of your grandpa's attributes shine bright through you. Your mere existence and presence filled Dad with the energy to continue on, and also made him content and accepting of his life's work. Sarah, oldest child, leads her family just as you did, Dad, and instills the same morals, and has the quiet strength as you. Intelligent, an avid reader, can flip through a book in hours just like Dad. Trevor, thanks for being there for us. Meant a lot. Sarah and I as kids were worst enemies, but we've grown to closest allies. We gave our dad this life here in Michigan. We questioned the doctors. We did the research. We pounded on the nurses. We made phone calls. We made reservations. We did all kinds of things. Sarah, I love you. Thanks, Lincoln. Oh, one more thing, Lincoln. So, lessons from Dad. 2 of them. Main one was when Dad was unable to eat. Main thing is make sure you chew your food slowly and enjoy it. And then if someone tells you not to tell your parents something, what do?
Tell my parents. Tell my parents.
That's right. Thanks, Lincoln. Mom, Cheryl Ann, you and Nabil had a special and unique relationship that no one else had. Your love and compassion towards him really kept him going. The past 10 months, Dad and I agreed that this has been the best times of our lives. It was filled with fulfillment and purpose. Things I gave to you, Dad, I never let you quit. When things got tough, we would argue about drinking this, getting this many ounces, this many calories. At the end of the day, you always did it for me. We didn't have a lovey-dovey relationship all the time because we have work to do. We could have, and it would have been easy, but we didn't want that. We went out on our terms. One night a friend came over and we were able to let loose, and I cherished that night and cherished that time. Dad taught me being courteous is not enough. You need to also include kindness, selflessness, and he showed me what perseverance really means. You taught me everything you could. You showed me how to be a man, dignity, integrity, honor, and you can cry. Ain't no shame in it. A couple proud moments. In high school, my first home run, walking down the parking lot with you. I was so excited to tell you about it. You used to give me a quarter for every check in hockey. And I cherish our post-game conversations detailing the games that I had. I'm proud of you, Dad. You did everything I asked, and you didn't quit. And if you didn't, it was because you couldn't, not because you didn't want to. You taught me how not to get taken advantage of, and to take what's yours. The tools you give me will last a lifetime. I think of you all the time. We're very much alike, from how we walk to the way we talk, and the way that you put others first. We share the same work ethic, optimism, and empathy for others. One regret Dad had was that he left Michigan and didn't come back. but he did everything he could to make amends for that and apologize to us for it. He never had to apologize, and I told him that over and over and over. Told him there's no need. But because you're so stubborn, I was thinking about accepting your apology, but no, I'm more stubborn than you, so no apology is needed. A few weeks a year, I go over and visit them, usually around Christmas for New Year's. We do things like golf, play tennis, boat rides, video games, swimming, beaches, restaurants. And he'd always pick me up and drop me off from the airport. In addition, he would always work his full-time hours during that time. So thank you for giving me your time, and I know it wasn't easy. Growing up, for us kids, you worked hard, so we had the things we needed and wanted. He played countless hours of catch with me, drove across the state for hockey tournaments, taught me how to be confident and resourceful. Please be at peace, Dad, knowing you never let us down. I'm going to read one letter I wrote to him a few years ago. I was the boy sitting in the back seat, watching and adoring you, my hero, the boy you raised to be proud of our cultures and proud of who and what I am, the boy you raised with the toughest of love, the intense work, the hard hand, the adoring boy who wanted to know only your best qualities, who then grew to become a man, realizing you had deeply complicated sides that needed to be held and understood. Son to father, man to man, that's when my adoration turned to respect and my empathy turned to gratitude. Grateful that you gave me life. Grateful you gave me life's invaluable lessons. Dad, I love you. I carry your perseverance and work ethic with me as I have worked to accomplish. I love you, Dad, and I'll always be your proud and grateful son.